Welcome. You have reached review time with Imperial. Today's review will be Jingle Jangle, A Christmas Journey. Let's get into it. So this movie kicks off the um Christmas holiday season. It's always some new movies that come out and you give it a chance to see if it can make the uh list of faves for Christmas movies. And this is an instant classic. This movie was real good. I didn't know what to think of it because it is a partial musical, but it was definitely good. It stars Forrest Whitaker as Jeronicus Jangle. Don Juan Diego is played by Ricky Martin. Journey Jangle is played by Madeline Mills. Keegan Michael Key as Gustafin. Jessica Jangle is played by Anika Noni Rose, and Felicia Rashad, she plays as Mrs. Jangle. And that's pretty much the main characters of the movie. And so basically, it starts off as Mrs. Jangle, played by Felicia Rashad. She is with her grandchildren. Pretty much, it's Christmas time. They want to hear a Christmas story, and her granddaughter is pretty much not in like this Christmas spirits in a sense. She kind of looking down, and Mrs. Jangle pretty much said, "Well, instead of hearing the old Christmas stories, how about hear the a new Christmas story, the journey of the Christmas journey. Oh, my bad, a Christmas journey." So then she opened up the book, and the book wasn't like your traditional book. It pretty much opened up in like some mechanical, um, like how a watch looks like if you take the covering off. And so it opened up and she began the story, and it was a great toy inventor in a town, and all the town came to get his inventions, and he had an apprentice. An apprentice was a inventor too, but was trying to wait for his shot. And so Jeronicus Jangle, he was waiting for a special part to come in. When this part came in, he knew that it would take him and make him, basically global. And so he found the part, he put it into this new toy invention he was making, which was a doll, a mechanical doll that could work on his own. And the doll came to life. But when the doll came to life, the doll instantly didn't want a bunch of other dolls that's just like him. The doll wanted to be the only one. So Jeronicus, his apprentice, Gustafin, he told him basically, Gustafin basically kept trying to ask Jeronicus, "Hey man, I got these inventions I need you to take a look at." And then he was so busy doing everything throughout the world, in the community, he really didn't give him that much time. So then you had uh, Jeronicus not paying attention to the apprentice, which is Gustafin. And so Jeronicus went to his wife and his daughter, Jessica. And when he left and went to them, the mechanical doll convinced Gustafin to take all of Jeronicus' inventions, his blueprints, and stuff like that, and become his own man. And so that's basically what he did. So when Jeronicus came back in to give Gustafin a Christmas gift, Gustafin was disappeared, and he took the toy and all the invention, the blueprints and stuff. So from that time, it sped up, and over the time, what happened is the wife ended up getting Jeronicus Jangle's wife ended up getting sick, and the daughter was growing, getting older, and then he started to shun the daughter away because he was depressed that all his inventions was taken. And so the daughter ended up leaving and moving on with her life. Meanwhile, he became an old man in comes Forrest Whitaker, where he's now old man. Gustafin has become the greatest toy inventor of 30 years later, and now Jeronicus is a pawn. He like a pawn shop now, and his Jingle and Things is what his pawn shop is called, and it's really get ready, pretty much going to get foreclosed. He hasn't had an invention. He's been depressed all these years. Meanwhile, um, he finally, and then there's a town's male woman, and she's fond of him, and so of course his musical's going on. She's fond of him, but he's really not paying her no attention. So he finally sends a letter to his daughter, and the daughter, Jessica, now she's the mother, and her daughter name is Journey, and she pretty much lets her daughter go visit her grandpa for the first time, and he thinking it's his daughter is gonna come visit him, but she sends um, her daughter instead, so which is his granddaughter. So of course she appears and she says to him who she is. He doesn't believe her, but she shows him the picture of her mother, and so he knows she could have only got that. And then she read a letter from her mom as well. So he brought her in, and he had like a third dimension where he could go out of sight, out of mind, and pick up equations. So of course he was standoffish at first, and so he could see equations that other people couldn't see. That's what made him such a great inventor. And he was going over his equations, and she would see the same thing. And then he pretty much was like, well, she was looking over my notes. So he mapped out this real serious equation, gave it to her, and she looked at it. And at first he thought he stomped her, but then she sees a different vision than him. Now his vision is gold, her vision is blue, and she ended up coming up with the answer because she could see the things that he could see. So she's special like he was. So that kind of like, let him go back in the box or whatever, because he's still going through his depressed mode. He never really moved past it. Meanwhile, he now has a young apprentice at the shop now, name of Edison, and Edison is there. He's pretty much there to help things around the shop. And so I think what he's learning, what he did with Gustafin, is that you have to kind of embrace your young apprentice earlier on before they turn bad. So nevertheless, what's taking place is Journey is in his like attic where she meets Edison, and he has Jeronicus has been working on an invention because the bank is about to foreclose the business. And so he's been working on this invention that pretty much will turn this robot on. So Journey sees it, she puts it inside the robot, and because she believed that the robot came to life, and then the robot is pretty much told her that he was always alive, but pretty much her grandfather didn't believe, so he never came alive for the grandpa. So the robot flies, and then she flies. It's called Buddy 3000. Meanwhile, Gustafin he's this big worldwide toy maker, and he's running out of ideals. So he pretty much been spying on Jeronicus, and his little Jeronicus first toy that came to life convinced him, long as you don't duplicate me, we're gonna be straight. And so he pretty much told Gustafin, hey, listen, a great inventor always got another invention. You just gotta find it. So that made him snoop on Jeronicus, and when he snooped on it, he seen that the granddaughter and them was floating in the air with the Buddy 3000. So that let him know there's something else out there. Meanwhile, Jeronicus came up in the attic, and the robot basically shut down again because he doesn't believe. And she was trying to tell him it works. You just got to believe, but he wouldn't believe her. So he yelled at her, pretty much sent her about her way. And so he's still in his mode. And Gustafson is on his way to the shop to pretty much steal the next invention. So he sees the journey outside. He tries to convince her, like, basically will her in, but she wasn't for it. She's too sharp. So nevertheless, he took off, and so he waited around. Jeronicus and his granddaughter Journey went off into the town, and they pretty much had the whole town having a snowball fight. And so while they was having all this fun, Gustafson went into the pawnbroker shop, Jangle and things, and seeing Edison, tied him up, and they took Buddy. So when they came back from having a snowball fight, Journey seeing Edison upstairs and pretty much saying what happened, and he pretty much said, Gustafson tied me up. He took Buddy, and they was like, we got to get him. And so she left off. Her and Edison, they went into a sneak way into the big factory of the Gustafson on their way to get Buddy. So Buddy pretty much Gary's still the invention, but of course Buddy didn't turn on in front of the folks who Gustafson was trying to sell the invention to. He didn't turn on because nobody in there believed. So he just sat there, and so the people pretty much was leaving and said basically Gustafson is a joke. And so he basically was like, just trash the toy. It doesn't work anyway. And so the little mechanical doll was telling him if it was a fake, why did they believe in? I mean, why did they have the toy? And so that may trigger him to pretty much retrieve the toy. But by that time, Journey and Edison was inside of the factory, and they was stealing Buddy back. And so they got in through like this windmill, and it was turning real fast. So then by that time, Jeronicus, he was looking for his granddaughter, and he just had a hunch where she was. He got the male woman to take him there, to take him to the toy factory, and he seen the turning windmill, and pretty much he could hear his granddaughter through the turning windmill, and she told him that, gave him inspiration that you could figure this out on how we should be able to get through this turning windmill. So at that moment, he gave her an equation to get through the turning windmill, and she pretty much followed through it. Now, in the process of that, Edison invented some type of string that can help them fly through the turning windmill. And when they went through the windmill, Buddy 3000 was like crumbled in pieces. So they was pretty much, happy that they got each other. And she was like, you gotta fix Buddy 3000. Now her mom only let her come over his establishment for a few days. So the mom said, I'm gonna pick her up on Christmas Day. So she went on to sleep that night. Meanwhile, he's looking in front of this 3000 shambled in pieces, not thinking he could put it back together. Meanwhile, his daughter Jessica Jangle shows up, and then they, had a rekindle moment. He apologized to her that he went into that deep place and he shouldn't treated her the way that he did, but he want to be there for Journey like he should have been there for her. And so after doing all that, they worked together to pit Buddy 3000 together. By that time, Journey woke up, and when Journey woke up, they put the pieces back into Buddy 3000. He came back to life, and then by that time it was Christmas Day, and the banker was coming to foreclose it, and basically was telling him if he didn't have new invention, they were gonna have to shut the place down. And so right when he was talking to Jeronicus about that, Buddy came and flew in front of him. So he's like, what is that? So that hyped him. And when Buddy flew in front of him, it made Jeronicus fly up in the air and everything. And so that was just like the whole magical moment. So this is like a great family film to watch for Christmas holidays. You find out I mean, I kind of knew this already, that you find out that Mrs. Jangle, who was telling the whole story the whole time, and played by Felicia Rashad. And shout out to her, because at her age, she looks great. She's still looks gorgeous as she did when she played on the Cosbys. And she looks great at her age. So salute to her. And it's good to see her in a lot more roles uh, that I'm seeing in her latter years. But you find out that she's Journey, and her grandchildren, and her now that your grandchildren is seeing, oh, our great grandfather is Jeronicus Jangle, and so they're loving the story. And then Buddy 3000, he pops out, and then basically she's basically showing them a whole new world. And then she opened up the windows and see that they see the factory to the Jangle toy factory. And then pretty much at that moment, she's like, well, let's go see it first hands on. And of course, Buddy 3000 allows all of them to fly towards the factory. And that's pretty much the movie in a nutshell. And out of my 4-star rating system, I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 4. I'm not sure I gave a 4 out of 4 this whole year. I might have, but I can't really think of. But this is definitely a 4 out of 4. Instant Christmas classic, in my opinion. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment. Till next time.